the most important thing that you can do in private practice is doing a good job with clients. Like that message will really resonate with so many people, and you will grow your practice that way, because when you build your reputation, you build your brand.
This episode is sponsored by TherapyNotes, therapynotes.com. Be sure and check them out, and be sure and use the promo code Gordon, Gordon, and you can try them out for 2 months for free. Over 15 years ago, when I started my private practice, I had to learn a lot, and most of it the hard way, and I don't think you need to do the same. Hi, I'm Gordon Brewer, a licensed psychotherapist, and welcome to the Practice of Therapy podcast, part of the Psychcraft network of podcasts. Join me in this journey of discovery as we have conversations with other leaders and professionals in both the mental and allied health fields. Join us as we explore both the business and clinical sides of running a private practice. And welcome to the podcast. I'm Gordon Brewer, and this is episode number 316 of the Practice of Therapy podcast. So glad you've joined me, and if this is the first time listening to the podcast, glad you're with us, and hope you'll come back for more and take time to follow us and subscribe to the podcast wherever you might be listening to it. So I'm looking forward to you hearing from my guest today, Jennifer McGurk. And Jennifer was just a delight to talk with. Jennifer is a registered dietitian, and she is working in the dietitian world, I guess, of private practice. And what I love about it is that there's a lot of crossover between what she does and what we do, or what dietitians do and what we do in the mental health field. And that, as you've heard from other previous guests, there's that have been dietitians, there's such a link to the whole eating thing within mental health. And I know there are a lot of you out there that work with folks that might be struggling with some eating disorders and that sort of thing. But anyway, what I love about Jennifer is she's taking a real holistic approach, and we just dive into some of the common, I guess, struggles that most of us in private practice, whether it's in the dietitian world or in the mental health fields that we run into, and just our mindset and how we think about what we're doing and moving our practices forward. So looking forward to you hearing that conversation. And before we get to that, though, I'd love for you to go over and check out mentalhealthwaretn.com. And this is a online store that I've started with my good friend Ashley, and we are trying to just make a difference in the world through what people wear, and just offering t-shirts and clothing that people can wear that have inspirational thoughts or reminders about either their journey through recovery or their journey through mental health. There's also some great shirts that she's designed, shirts and t-shirts and hoodies and that sort of thing, just around our profession. So if you're looking for a snazzy new LMFT sweatshirt or LCSW sweatshirt or LPC sweatshirt, we've got them there in the store. So be sure to check it out, mentalhealthwaretn.com. And if you'll use the promo code just POT24, you can get 25% off on your first order. So check the links here in the show notes and go over there and check that out. And also, if you're interested in diving in deeper to growing your practice and doing some one-to-one work with me around how you want to build your practice, setting your goals, figuring out your systems and processes, I am accepting new consulting clients. So if you're interested in doing that with me, you can go over to practiceoftherapy.com and click on the consulting tab or start consulting tab there at the top of the page. And you can look at that and find out a little bit more about my consulting services and apply to do some consulting with me. One of the things I'll probably have planned for later in the year are doing some groups or some mastermind groups around building your practice and growing your practice, whether it's group practice or just getting started. But anyway, the place to start is just go over and fill out the application, and you can start consulting, or we can begin the conversation. So go over and click on the link and practiceoftherapy.com, just start consulting tab in the menu there at the top, and we can start that conversation. And also, real quickly here, before we get to my conversation with Jennifer, I'd love for you to hear more from one of the members of the PsychCraft Network, along with our sponsor of the podcast, TherapyNotes.
Hey there, Daniel Fava here, and if you don't know me, I'm the host of the Private Practice Elevation podcast, where I share online marketing strategies and interviews to help private practice owners attract more clients and scale their businesses. The Private Practice Elevation podcast is part of the PsychCraft network of podcasts, and I'm super excited to be a part of this network alongside Gordon and the great work he's doing. If you haven't discovered the Private Practice Elevation podcast yet, you can find it wherever you listen to your podcasts. I'd love for you to join me as we explore topics like building an effective website for your private practice, search engine optimization, content marketing, and copywriting, as well as my conversations with experienced private practice owners about scaling a practice, outsourcing, team leadership, and all things that will help you elevate your business and create the life you love. Be sure to check us out at privatepracticeelevation.com for resources and content to help you in your online marketing journey.
Have you ever wished your private practice could run as smoothly as a well-oiled machine? Well, look no further, because TherapyNotes is here to revolutionize your practice. TherapyNotes is the complete practice management system you've been dreaming of. With everything you need to manage patient records, schedule appointments, meet with clients remotely, create rich documentation, and handle insurance billing, it's your secret weapon for a smoother practice. And the best part? It's accessible wherever and whenever you need it. Yep, even on the go. Imagine having more time for what truly matters, your clients. It's like having an extra set of hands, but digital. And here's the kicker. It's the very EHR Gordon relies on in his own practice. So, you know it's the real deal. Say goodbye to paperwork nightmares and hello to more time and better quality care. Check out TherapyNotes today at practiceoftherapy.com/therapynotes. Oh, and don't forget to use the promo code GORDON to get 2 months free. That's practiceoftherapy.com/therapynotes with the promo code GORDON. Enjoy the show.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome again to the podcast. And I'm really happy for you to get to know Jennifer McGurk. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored to be here.
Yes. And Jennifer is one of those good people that reached out to me, and she's actually a registered dietitian. And we were chatting before we started recording just about a lot of the crossover between our professions and just how we can help each other out more. But Jennifer, as I start with everyone, tell folks a little more about yourself and how you've landed to where you've landed.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Gordon. So yes, I am a registered dietitian. I am also a certified eating disorder specialist through I. So that is really my niche and my passion as a dietitian, to help people not only seek eating disorder treatment, but to recover. And that's really important to me. That fuels my mission as a dietitian. And it was back in 2011 that I said, I really want to start a private practice. And at that point, I had no mentors, no resources. We had huge books as dietitians on what to do and how to get started. And I did it the long, hard, drawn out way. I researched for 3 years. I'm sure some people are nodding their heads. And I finally opened in 2011 and really faced so many hurdles getting started and growing. And it was 2014 where I had my first son that I said, I really want to help other professionals. I want to do some supervision. And supervision, just so you know, Gordon, is not necessarily known in the field of dietetics as it is for therapists. So I really wanted to work with other professionals. I wanted to teach them how to grow businesses and also help with their eating disorder client cases, and decided that I was just going to start before I was ready, because I had learned so much opening up a business the first time. And that's how Pursuing Private Practice was born. So I started seeing some other dietitians on how to start and grow a business. I grew supervision groups. I really specialized more so in the field of eating disorders and private practice. And Pursuing Private Practice has just evolved, and we're scaling to serve lots of other business owners and healthcare professionals in the courses and programs that we offer. So I'm really excited to share my story, because you never know what you can do if you just start. And that's really what my mission has been.
Yeah. And I think that echoes a lot of what people find, especially, I know it resonates for me, just kind of, as I like to say, I've learned a lot the hard way. And I think sometimes you just have to jump in there and just start doing, and then you learn along the way. And
Oh,
I think
yes.
that's a great approach. Yeah.
I have pivoted so much in my career as a dietitian. You know, I started off as a very weight-centric dietitian, just focusing on weight loss and focusing on like healthy habits. And now I am a firm anti-diet, weight-inclusive dietitian. So my entire practice of how I practice dietetics has changed over many years of learning and supervision and learning from other people, and really having the experience of working with so many clients and seeing how, and again, I don't know if your listeners are eating disorder savvy or not. I bet a couple people are, but it really is so interesting how just diets don't necessarily work for a lot of people, and a weight inclusive approach and eating disorder treatment and recovery, intuitive eating are just principles that I really embrace. And I've seen so many clients thrive. I have changed the way I practice as a dietitian. So it's totally normal to pivot and evolve. And again, with Pursuing Private Practice, I have pivoted and evolved so much with our courses and programs, depending on what the market needs and what I'm also passionate about.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's true for anybody, regardless of what business or profession you're in. Where you start isn't going to be where you end up, or even where you continue to change and pivot and do things differently as you learn.
Yeah, exactly. Because not only do you change as a professional, but your market changes. The world we live in today is not the same world as it was 10 years ago, and certainly not even 3 years ago, post-COVID and everything. Just our environment's different. And I feel like that's especially true for mental health.
Yeah. I think you're right. So I guess a couple of ways we can go here, but one of the things maybe that people would be interested in is, what have you learned about eating disorders, and what helps from a dietitian standpoint?
Oh my gosh, yes, so many things. So I have to say, it's so interesting. I am so passionate about the mission of eating disorder treatment and recovery. I am so in it for the significance of just helping people live their best life. And at the same time, I know this is something you talk about on your podcast. Like, there are so many people that are talking about eating disorder recovery, and I would love to talk about business and private practice and those types of things. So I actually would love to share my thoughts, knowing and just admitting that I am not necessarily the expertise in eating disorders anymore, because I am actually a retired clinician. I still have obviously my RD and CEDS, but I am very much into the business world. But I think for me, recovery is so multifaceted. I think that a lot of people think that eating disorder recovery means that you just challenge yourself eating differently, you follow the quote unquote guidelines that you're supposed to, and you work with one professional, and all of a sudden you make linear progress all the time. And I've seen that in my practice too. It's like people come in and they say like, okay, well, I want to heal from this eating disorder. Let me start working with you, and I'm going to see you every single week. And they expect that they get better every single week in a linear way. And eating disorder recovery, in my opinion, is all about going with the ups and the downs and the twists and the turns of life, because someone's eating disorder is not connected to just the foods that they are eating or not eating. It's connected to their mental health. It's connected to their genetics. It's connected to their environment. It's connected to their brain. And I feel like a lot of therapists are talking about brain health in a different way that dietitians aren't necessarily talking about. So I think you all are doing something very right when it comes to this, that dietitians would really benefit from. But it also is family, it's inner child stuff. And there's so many different multi-layers with an eating disorder. And I think a lot of professionals don't necessarily understand that the eating disorder is there to protect the client in some way. Like they've developed this eating disorder because it's serving them in some aspect. And we have to get to the root of that. And that's why we need a physician, a therapist, a dietitian, a psychiatrist, any parents, school counselors, anyone that with a big treatment team, because it has to do with every single one of those areas that I just described. So it's not just the food that we eat, like it's about the food and it's not about the food.
Right. Yeah, that makes so much sense. And that I think I think most of us are finding that we need to take a more holistic approach with what we do. Yeah, one of my friends and colleagues, Chris McDonald, so quick shout out to her. She has a podcast, the Holistic Counseling Podcast. And that's one of her mantras too, is just looking at the whole thing and looking at the whole system around people and all of that is where we can make a big difference rather than just focusing in on just one little thing.
Yes. No. And I really do feel like therapists are trained much better than dietitians at that, because dietitians are trained in the sense of, someone has a problem. Here's medical nutrition therapy. And here's exactly what we do to change it with food. And we don't necessarily look at everyone else's big picture. So I really cannot wait to see. I mean, I'm not necessarily practicing eating disorder recovery and treatment anymore, but I can't wait to see all the people that I have helped just really explode in the field and contribute more ideas and different ways of helping people heal, because that's what I really care about so much. I love the significance of this message.
Yeah. So to change gears a little bit again, I know your passion is really helping dietitians go into private practice. And how is that maybe a different paradigm than maybe what people tend to think about with dietitians?
Oh, yeah. So the cool thing is that dietitians can do a lot of different things. So as a trained dietitian, we can go into clinical, we can go into food service, we could go into community. Those are actually the 3 pillars of our dietetic internship. But there's so many options. There's research, there's academia, there's so many different things that we can do. And private practice is a very popular choice among a lot of people. And we don't get any training in business at school besides maybe 1 or 2 courses. There are a couple programs that are doing better with that. So I can't call out everybody, but we don't get any training. We don't necessarily have the skills in entrepreneurship, and we really don't focus on business that much, although it is a popular choice among students and young professionals that they want to start businesses. So I feel like we can change the trajectory of the dietetics profession if we just started a little bit earlier in introducing the fact that you can go into private practice, introducing business concepts, really thinking about how business and clinical intertwine. And I know you've talked about that a lot on your podcast, but the most important thing that you can do in private practice is doing a good job with clients. Like that message will really resonate with so many people, and you will grow your practice that way, because when you build your reputation, you build your brand. And we don't get any training about business. So it really is important that we have these conversations and we teach, especially the people that are interested, that want to start a business, that it's possible for them. So I love to be an inspiration for others that you can do it.
Yes. In your work with people that are going into private practice in the dietitian world, what are some of the big obstacles that you've noticed that they have to overcome in getting there?
Yes. So I think that this is actually very similar to therapists. So it's always the question of, I need another job and I want to start a private practice on the side. That's very, very, very common for dietitians because they might have a job that has benefits or paid time off, and they might not necessarily be able to just quit and start their own thing. That's very normal. I think a lot of people feel imposter syndrome, like they just don't know what they're doing, which again is very normal. I feel a lot of people think, oh my gosh, well, I don't know how to counsel clients from an outpatient setting, meaning I'm going to have to sell my services. I'm going to have to like have people come back. Like, how do I actually sell in business? And I teach that it's just a conversation. It's just a very simple conversation on figuring out if you're the right match for a client in front of you. So I think a lot of people feel overwhelmed and anxious. They don't know how to begin. And again, that's why we have resources to help people take that first step.
Yeah. Yeah. What's a typical client load for a dietitian? I guess I'm curious because I think about with therapists, mental health therapists, we typically think about, a 1 hour session or a 45-minute session that we do with people. And then we charge a certain amount for that time. And then, they, make another appointment and here we go. And so how is it maybe any different in your world?
Yes, that's a really great question. And that actually helps us translate one-on-one services into a skill that healthcare professionals have in building scalable offers. So I think that one-on-one, what you just described, is a perfect start for us to really work with clients, figure out how to create process and change within our humans that we're working with. And then we can start to really figure out what are other things that we can do, like selling a group or a course or intellectual property or packages of some sort. Or even if you have a practice already, like maybe even working on an offer for parents of your practice or something like that. So I've seen dietitians really take this one-to-one and translate it into a scalable model, which I love. But you're so right. The most popular type of offer in private practice really is a one-to-one offer, which is fine. And I think a lot of people go into private practice expecting to do that. And then from there, they can see the pros and cons of that, because there are pros and cons of that. And then they can expand if they want to. Yeah. I think the only difference is that it depends on the actual client. I think the more therapeutic type of work, eating disorders, family counseling, pediatrics, when you're working with like intense clients that might need more from you, they are usually 1 hour sessions. But sometimes if you're in more of an information type of specialty, which again, I would kind of argue that there is no information type of specialty, because behavior change is very much therapeutic, no matter what specialty you're in. But I feel like a lot of dietitians treat the information specialties as a little bit more, or I should say less complex. So sometimes people can offer 15 or 30-minute sessions, and they might have more people during the day.
Right. Well, what you describe, I think, is one thing that people have heard from me before, and that is moving from the one-to-one model of providing services to the one-to-many, and really learning how to leverage your time and your expertise, which is what we provide for people, and in a way that is sustainable, and also that can grow, because as people find out, particularly if they're in a solo practice, you reach a ceiling as to how many people you can see and how many people you can, and how much income you can create for yourself in a week's time. And so, you can create an amazing job for yourself in your own private practice, but you have essentially created an amazing job. I think when you create a scalable offer, you get a little bit more freedom than sitting, one-to-one, which again, there's nothing wrong with it. And that's the thing that I hate. I just hate the people that say you have to do this type of business model. There are different business models for different personalities, different strengths, different passions, different stages of life. You are never, ever, ever stuck as a business owner. In fact, I think you have more options as a business owner than you do at a regular job. Right. I totally agree. And I think, and I'm sure it's true for in your profession as it is for us is that the reason that anybody goes into private practice, I think, is to give themselves that autonomy and freedom that they don't have in working for someone else necessarily.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
So, yeah. Well, good. Well, Jennifer, tell folks more about your podcast and some of the consulting services you have.
Yeah. So if you made it this far, you love podcasts. So I always say, come follow mine. It's Pursuing Private Practice, especially for anyone interested in nutrition, dietetics. We have a lot of crossover too with therapists. So please come listen. It's all about not only the different stages of business, but we go through different categories of business. So we recently started to do this and it's working out well. I think we will do this for a very long time. We have a theme each month. So September was vision, October offers, November is finances, December's marketing, January is systems. I'm trying to think. And then February is CEO life. And that's as far as we plan so far. So we definitely break it up by topics. And I'm really excited to see how people like it.
Yeah, that's a brilliant idea. I don't always say I'm such a disorganized person. I don't know if I could ever get it in all that order, but but that is a great idea. I love that.
Thank you.
And so tell folks how they can find you.
Yes, pursuingprivatepractice.com is my website. We have tons of resources there, lots of things that you can download. And then over on Instagram, Pursuing Private Practice, I would love to connect with you. And again, just let me know if you need anything. I would love to help you out if you are interested in building private practice.
Well, great. And we'll have links in the show notes and show summary for people to get to that easily. So, well, Jennifer, any parting thoughts here as we kind of wrap things up?
Thank you, Gordon. I just appreciate the chance to be on this podcast. And again, like you said, connecting the overlap of dietitians and therapists is so important. We can learn so much from one another. And I'm just grateful to be here. I can't wait for my audience to listen and start to follow you. Awesome. So thank you so much.
Well, thanks, Jennifer. Well, I'm sure we'll have some more conversations here soon. Well, a big thanks to Jennifer for joining me on the podcast. And I really enjoy having these conversations. That's one of the things I love about doing this podcast is I get to talk with so many great people just in our fields. And one of the things that I think that really stuck with me is something we were talking about there towards the end of the interview is really about your mindset around your practice. You know, one of the big things that a lot of people have to make a transition with, particularly if they've been working for an agency or working in the agency setting, is moving from kind of a job mindset to a business mindset. And, we could do a whole episode on that, but I think that's something important to remember. When you go into private practice, you really have to put your business mindset first, because otherwise you're not going to do well with it. And you can make a lot of mistakes. So it's real important to learn the business side of things. And that's why Jennifer and I are here. Be sure and check out her things at pursuingprivatepractice.com and, and her podcast as well. That's real exciting. But also, if you're interested in maybe talking with me about some consulting as well, find somebody that's a good fit for you, but you can also do consulting as well and starting to accept some new individual clients for consulting. So you can check that out at practiceoftherapy.com. Also, before we go, big thanks to TherapyNotes for being a sponsor of the podcast. They are the leading electronic health record system for mental health providers. They're who I use in my practice, and we really couldn't operate without them. For my practice, it's the perfect system that we have in place for managing all of the clinical side of our practice. So from filing insurance claims to giving people a patient portal to set appointments. Also, there's a telehealth component in there. And it's really everything all in one place. And if you will go over to practiceoftherapy.com/therapy notes, you can check them out. And also be sure and use that promo code, just Gordon, Gordon, to try them out for 2 months for free. And if you have any questions about Therapy Notes, I'm happy to answer those. You can shoot me an email and I'll be glad to have that conversation with you. And also big thanks to, I'd love for you to go over and check out psychcraftnetwork.com and all the other great podcasts that are in this network. It's something that I started back in 2022, and there is just a ton of information and tons of great podcasts to listen to learn more and to help you in your journey. And I love those fellow podcasters that are in that network, and you're going to be hearing more and more from them as we go along. I just love this media of podcasting, and I feel like it's a great way to connect and to learn and do it in a, really it feels almost kind of an intimate setting by listening to podcasts. So don't want to go too far off on a tangent on that. But anyway, thanks again for listening. Look forward to being with you in some of these future episodes. Got a lot of great guests lined up. And so stay with us and take time to follow us or subscribe to the podcast wherever you might be listening to it. Take care, folks. You've been listening to the Practice of Therapy podcast with Gordon Brewer, part of the PsychCraft network of podcasts. You can find out more about the other great podcasts in the network by visiting psychcraftnetwork.com. And if you haven't done so already, please visit us at practiceoftherapy.com and get your free private practice startup guide, along with a lot of other great resources and webinars and free things just by visiting. Also, be sure to follow us wherever you might be listening to your podcasts. This podcast is intended to be educational in purpose and is not intended to give legal, accounting, or counseling advice. If you need a professional, find the right person for that.